Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Why Teacher. We continue with our series Classroom Stories, and in today's episode I'm relating a beautiful experience with my year 6 students which was centered around empathy and a sense of responsibility. I think it's fair to say that teachers work really hard at setting up the classroom routines and expectations for the children, and they do that with the understanding that the success of any lesson plan lies in the learners understanding their roles. And if you ask any teacher, they'll tell you that all of this is true right until the children actually go for any kind of a break. So whether it's their spring break or their winter break, when they return, it seems like you're talking to complete strangers. And you have to work all over again over setting the rules once again. The children are not in the mood to, get into the learning, get back into the learning mode. And the teachers are already with their lesson plans, and so it's kind of chaotic for the first few days. And this kind of chaos can also produce beautiful learning experiences for both the teacher and the children. And something similar happened in my year 6 students, with my year 6 students, who were a bunch of very bubbly, very chirpy boys and girls. I think in my teaching years, that classroom remains special to me because it was a mix of boys and girls who all seemed to be very expressive. So if you ask any teacher, an expressive lot of children are a valuable treasure to a teacher because you can do so much with an expressive lot. But at the same time, it is also a difficult group to manage because, they all are expressing at the same time. As their English teacher, I used to have a 90-minute block with them every day. And like I said, they were an expressive lot. So when you have that level of energy inside your classroom, then you really have to plan by the minute. And so I was putting in a lot of effort into these lesson plans, to ensure that, children would be learning for the day. And so when I found myself coming out of the classroom, for 2 days without having achieved any of the lesson objectives or to have met any kind of learning outcomes that I'd set for them, I was in a state of panic because teachers really can't have that kind of luxury, and schools question you about your lessons all the time. And so on the 3rd day, I decided to nip it in the bud and really, come up with a plan that was going to put their perspective in place. So the funny thing about children that I realized was that if you're running after them, they are going to ignore you completely. But the moment you stop, they turn around and they begin to miss your presence. And so on day 3, when I entered the classroom, I entered completely silent. I put my books and I just stood there as they ran around and did their own thing. And suddenly they realized that something was different. And so my silence was able to get me their attention. And when you get into a situation like that, it's a beautiful moment to say what you want to say and get them into that circle of trust once again. And so I found my moment with them and I asked them, that I'm wondering, have you ever been in a situation where you had to, help somebody realize their dream, or have you ever been in a situation where you helped somebody succeed? And after a little bit of thinking and pondering, a few hands went up and they shared their story of success, and I asked them, how did that make you feel? And they said that, we felt fulfilled and we felt that, we had made a difference. So I pointed it out to them that I'd been coming to the classroom for the past 2 days and going out completely unsuccessful. And I think they pretty much understood where I was leading, but I had set up a plan in place where I would put them in that situation because children, until and unless you make them experience what the emotion feels like, I don't think they can fully relate to what you're going through. So I asked them that, in fact, I told them, I said, you understand your roles very well, but maybe you are not so much aware of, what my role as a teacher is and all the things that I need to do to be in this classroom for 90 minutes and teach you. And so I gave them some sheets of paper and I said, you have 40 minutes. And I want you to create a lesson plan that I can execute inside the classroom and I can teach you. And while you're creating this lesson plan, I want you to think of a few things. So it was a classroom that was always ready for a challenge. So the moment I said you're going to make a lesson plan, they all were, set to do it. And so they got into 5 groups, and each one of them was excited and said, Miss, please put the elements on the board. We want to see what you want us to include in the lesson. So I said, okay, I'm going to put a list here. Please make sure that, you take care of all of these things. So number 1 on the list, I put moods. So they looked at each other a little confused. Number 2, I put in attitudes. Number 3, I added in, pacing of work. Then I added mixed abilities. Then I added, mutual relationships. Then I added choice of group mates. And I went on and on until there were around 20 things on the board that they had to take into consideration while they were making this lesson plan. So it was interesting to see some of them whisper to each other and say, isn't this lesson all about engaging reading strategies? So like, what are all of these elements and how are they connected, So I ignored it completely. I'd given them a challenge, and so I was very proud of them because they were a talented lot. I could see all the missing elements come in place. So the attitudes were right, they were having conversations about things, they were cooperating, they were collaborating, because they didn't want to fail at it. It was a challenge and they didn't want to fail at it. So it brought back that spirit of them being a community. It brought back that spirit of them working together towards a successful goal. So eventually they were able to produce 5 lesson plans, and they were very proud, and they brought them and they said, Miss, look, these are all workable. It was very hard to put in everything that you've said there, but we were able to still do our best and create something for you. So I was very grateful. I was very thankful. I told them I was very proud of them for being a team. And I put one of the lesson plans next to mine and I said, look, I made one too. And I make one every day, in fact. But the fact is that, preparation is something that I do. However, preparation doesn't always promise success, because until I implement this inside the classroom and you play your roles there, this preparation is just a piece of paper for me. The message was loud and clear to them. And I told them that, a lot of times people misinterpret and think that, this piece of paper that we call preparation or a lesson plan is something that ensures the success of a lesson, or it's that one person who's walking with the lesson plan inside the classroom that's going to, bring all the change. But the reality is that, I'm just one person, and how many are you here? And they said, we're 30. I said, so realistically, who do you think is running this classroom? And they understood and they said, it's us. So I said, well, then the reality is that until and unless you do your part, until and unless you play your role, this piece of paper or preparation doesn't mean anything. So if we are a little mindful of the time that's being spent here, if we are a little bit empathetic towards the effort somebody is making, then we can help each other succeed. In all my years of teaching, I've always managed my discipline through empathy, because I believe that, when a teacher has 25 or more children, in a classroom, it is impossible for her to direct, the expectations alone. And, without a sense of togetherness and without a sense of, common objectives, it is not possible for anyone to create the circle of trust.